Dang, I don't know what's up. It was giving me this as trouble yesterday too. Don't know what's happening. But we're going to live, right? Where do I sats? Let me finish your comment. Looks loaded for today. Hope all you Bitcoiners lift as much. Nolan lift the news related to Bitcoin ecosystem. Yeah, we got some good news today, boy. You are going to love Moscow time today. It is extra Moscow-y. It's been great lately, all right? We predicted that it was because of all these like summer intern writer type people that Moscow time was going to be just the best all summer. That's what it's looking like. Good morning to every Bitcoiner, Ben says. LMH, a beautiful morning to do Bitcoin. We're still doing Bitcoin. I love it. Thank you. That's the best thing DeSantis has done. His entire campaign has given us the do Bitcoin phrasal verb. Bitcoin is up. The sun is running. You killed my punchline, Sicilianaire. Indeed, Bitcoin is up. The sun is running backwards, right? Let's do it backwards today. Let's have a coffee and talk about what's new, everyone. Larry's asking me to define Moscow times. I'm very happy to do that, Larry. So, Larry, this is what happened. A few years ago, Jack Dorsey, who we're going to talk about briefly today, Jack Dorsey was in the Bitcoin news yesterday, chatting with Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase. So, Larry, what happened was in the post-2020 election, we're going to talk about the 2020 election today, too, of course. So in the 2020 election time, they hauled Jack Dorsey's ass into Congress, and it was still COVID-y, so he remote testified, right? And behind him was a block clock. And because the fake news is so rock bottom stupid, as we're about to say right now with Moscow time, one of these journalists saw the block clock and didn't understand what it was. But the numbers on the block clock were set to what would have been the time delay if you were in America. It would have been the time in Moscow, right? So you understand what's happening. The block clock was there. The journalist is too stupid to understand what a block clock is, obviously. Like he's a journalist, right? Which there's some journalists out there who I love, but this is like a mainstream media journalist talking about war in Russia and these kinds of things, right? And Ukraine and what happened to the elections and like one of these low IQ journalists. And so the journalist was there. And in the days after, he hallucinated that what the block clock actually was a coded reference to Putin signaling the time in Moscow, right? And yeah, there you go. Justin says, which was block clock read 1952, which was the, thanks, Jevy, which was the sats per dollar at the time, right? So this guy, this journalist hallucinated that the whole thing was Jack Dorsey conspiring with the Russians to help Trump, I guess, lose the election, something like that. It was insane. So the act of a journalistic hallucination became the foundation of Moscow time. That's why all fake news, which are all hallucinations, are Moscow time. So there you go. I hope that explained it to you. I hope you know what Moscow time is now and why we love checking in with Moscow time every morning. Larry says, I'm embarrassed. I've been listening for 1 week, but did not have the... No, Larry, ask anytime, man. This is not a ballsy environment here. We practice staying humble and stacking sats around here. So that's what's going on. It was just pure fake news. All right. So we can get right into it, right? We've been talking all about how the camouflage, we noticed a pattern yesterday of every time Trump gets in trouble, it actually just coincides with us finding out stuff about Hunter. And Axios, who's not a normal participant in Moscow time, they're making, I don't think it's their Moscow time debut here today, but you don't usually find fake news in Axios or as much fake news as others. And I don't even really turn to Axios to go hunting for Moscow time in general. But here's their actual headline. Trump's indictment blocks out Biden's bad news. That's the headline today. Trump's bombshell 4-count indictment over his attempt to overturn the 2020 election monopolized media and political attention, overshadowing a string of not so great stories. Not so great. They're not so great, guys. Biden, not so great. Pardon me. Of course, The Atlantic had some great ones, right? Trump's threat to democracy is now systemic. The long-awaited federal indictment of Donald Trump for his efforts to overturn the 2020 election may be necessary, guys, and may be necessary to contain the threat to American democracy that he has unleashed. But it's unlikely to be sufficient. They need more indictments, more. They're saying more. It's not enough. It's unlikely to be sufficient. For the first time in our nation's history, the dominant faction in one of our two major parties has repeatedly demonstrated its willingness to accept anti-democratic means to advance its interests. They're not talking about Biden. They're not, right? Just so you know. Just so you know. This one's really tight. This is nice, right? This is trying to give Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney's daughter, right? A hero of the Atlantic now, right? The Cheneys are now just like the best people at the Atlantic. So they have an article, The Triumph of the January 6th Committee, The Triumph. A hefty portion of the indictment, though not all of it, draws from the narrative set out by the House Select Committee on the January 6th attack. In that sense, the indictment is an extraordinary endorsement of the committee's work. All right, so here's that was all just like kind of light, gentle Moscow time, right? Here's the kicker. This one comes with it. This is the thing that really brings the room together. This is the big Lebowski carpet. You're about to get the big Lebowski carpet, right? Fitch downgrades U.S. debt on debt ceiling drama and the January 6th insurrection. So America's debt rating got downgraded from AAA to AA yesterday. Europe is still cool, though, they said. No toxic debt over in Europe. So only America got the AA rating, right? Pardon me. And here you've got, this is from CNN, right? Actually saying that it's the January 6th insurrection that caused it. Yes. So good. So tight. All right. Here's a more typical. We're going to talk all about the stuff and Trump and all that later. We got a little more Moscow time to go. So this one is, this was a user shared. This is user sourced Moscow time, which I love, right? When you see Moscow time, please feel free to send it to me or tag me on Twitter. We love it. Weekend lions could be bad for you. Sleeping longer can increase risk of heart attacks, obesity, and strokes. Major study finds, right? Don't sleep, guys, right? Wait, now let's just catalog what they've told us is no good. Weightlifting, very, very bad. Don't do it, right? And it's also a little bit white supremacy, right? So it's not only is it going to kill you and give you a heart attack, it's going to make you a white supremacist. That was last week. But now sleeping too much, right? Especially on the weekend, right? It's the weekend sleeping that's really bad for you. So don't do it. Really, really bad. Now we're going to move to I had two on New York, didn't I? Hold on. I had two that I wanted to get to in New York City first. Where are they? Maybe we'll skip the New York City ones. We don't need them. We got enough from Canada that we can dive in with the Canada stuff. All right. So the next are all about Canada, right? So first up, this is just another one of the teasers, right? We're going to get deep into it, but of course we're all dealing. They got the U.S. with the debt rating thing now, right? And inflation going through the roof in Canada. And the Globe and Mail here is saying it's time for the government to step in and freeze grocery prices. So Canadians are going to get some frozen grocery prices pretty soon. Can't be going to be good, right? But of course, yesterday, the biggest news in Canada, right? Everyone talking about it. Justin Trudeau and his wife, Sophie, are separated or something's going on. But here's the funny part, right? Before, we'll get to that one. So here's the funny part. They passed a law a couple days ago, and it's just starting to come into effect. It's why you've seen a lot of Canadian online vloggers like Viva Fry. I went to law school with him. He's had to move to the United States and it's also why I've wondered if I've had trouble with Rumble a few times, because this new law has had all kinds of weird unintended consequences. And it turns out like a lot of online video content, people have had to leave, and you can't even really get some of the content. Like if you're even trying to source Moscow time, for example, on Facebook, it won't work because they passed this law, C-18, and it doesn't allow for the news to be shared on social media unless the social media companies pay the news makers. So it would be in the United States, for example, Facebook would have to pay the New York Times. Facebook would have to pay USA Today. Anytime someone shares the article, it's like a tiny micro or set payment or whatever. I don't know what the exact payment regime is, right? And if they don't pay, then Canada now has its own internet, like Chinese firewall, and it will block these things, right? So this is actually happening in Canada. The news is getting blocked unless they pay the Canadian news creators like the CBC and all these other losers. Like these are some of the dumbest people you've ever met in your life, and they want money from the internet service provider or internet platforms. So the funny thing is here, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau tried to share a news story about her separation on her Instagram yesterday, and it was blocked. So if you go to read Sophie Gregoire Trudeau's thing on Instagram, it says, people in Canada can't see your content. This account is a news publication. Content from news publications can't be viewed in Canada in response to Canadian government legislation. So all of this stuff is going on, right? They're talking about stepping in and doing the groceries and all this stuff, but no one can read it and everyone's got to leave. And then you have this, she's actually my congresswoman, my member of parliament. From the part of Quebec where my house in Vermont is, where I grew up on the other side. It's where I ran for Congress or for Parliament, but I ran for that job, over 10 years ago. And so the woman who's there just got cabinet shuffled, they call it. She got a new job and she's in charge of this stuff now. And so she came out with a statement yesterday, and I'm not going to read you all of it because, again, it just shows that these people don't understand how the world works, right? They thought, oh, they have so much money at Google and Facebook. They're going to pay the valuable Canadian news service, right? They're going to love it. So this is what she says. They would rather block their users from accessing good quality and local news instead of paying their fair share to the news organization. So they're all crying, the world is watching Canada. Everyone's got to pay. They're going to stand their ground, though, guys. They're going to make sure that Canadians get access to all of Moscow time. If you can't get Moscow time in Canada because of the ban, you'll come here. I'll get it from you from the United States. I had one story out of order here, and it is a Moscow time story. And you got to watch the language here. So, because this is how fake news almost always works, right? Little switch of language or whatever. But here's the story. Canada's new justice minister to tackle perceived lack of safety from crime. The perceived, it's just, it's crime, but it's just perceived lack of safety. So there you go. This is what's going on. Who killed the Canadian news industry? And Aaron Woodrick, a fellow I went to, I was a Conservative Party intern with many years ago when the government of Harper was first formed in the first weeks of the Harper government. And he's pointing out here that this is, basically unbelievable that the Trudeau government is even using the divorce now to not talk about the C-18 and all these crazy things that have happened, and influencers leaving and content creators leaving, and no one can read the news and all of these things. And Aaron Woodrick here saying, huge fiasco, and they're going to probably screw up this groceries thing. So wait for that, right? Looking forward to that. All right, so today's theme, right? We're going to move into the theme section. That was our Moscow time for the day. Our theme today is Daddy is Coming Home. I meant to put from war. Dang. Oh, well, it's a little off. Daddy is coming home from war, and he likes Bitcoin, right? And borrowed off of Scott Adams, who's been talking about the Daddy coming home frame lately, right? So Daddy coming home has been his sort of frame all week. And it struck me that you can start to see that frame and you can apply it to Bitcoin in a really neat and interesting way. And it looks like this. So yesterday we saw Tucker Carlson get a huge interview with Devon Archer, right? So Devon Archer was the guy who testified on Monday, and we said here on Monday morning it was going to be a big deal, and it looks like it was, right? So Devon Archer came out and said, no. Joe Biden has spoken with Hunter many times. He said 20 in this interview. He said 20 in the thing the other day. In the end, what that more or less proves is that all this stuff about Joe Biden saying I never talk business with my son, totally fake. And all that it opens up. It's not that we found anything new. It's the Devon Archer testimony is going to allow for Republicans to go to the White House and get a statement from Joe Biden, which he'll lie in. And the moment he lies, they're going to impeach him. And they're going to have an impeachment thing, and it's going to be a big drama. So as far as I can tell, from everything I see in the way this stuff is working out, Joe Biden is over. Like, it's done, right? This ain't going to get repaired. They're not going to be able to dump enough fake news onto the system. They're not going to be able to douse these flames. This is real, and it's changed the battlefield, right? So just anytime you see Joe Biden now or Hunter Biden, just ignore them. They're not in the game anymore, right? They're off the field. They're destroyed. They don't count. So, but nevertheless, what he described yesterday, what Devon Archer described in the Tucker Carlson interview, was really interesting because it shows the normalcy through which influence peddling and all of this stuff helps DC go around. And you can see from this one letter that Tucker Carlson, we've never seen it. Tucker Carlson picked it up and Devon Archer confirmed its authenticity. And this is what happened. So in the letter, it's just 2 paragraphs long, and it was written over 10 years ago when this fella, Devon Archer, was, in his mid-30s. He's sort of normal, young professional. And the vice president of the United States said the following, right? So if you haven't seen this interaction, it's incredible, right? So this is what happens. Tucker says, he's the vice president. So the person in the letter, right? I'm not sure if this is Charlie Kirk's breakdown of it. So after confirming Joe Biden met with Devon Archer around 20 times, Tucker Carlson unveils a never before seen letter from Joe Biden to Archer, clearly establishing Biden's ultimate knowledge of his son's foreign business deals. Tucker, he's the vice president of the United States, and he's talking about foreign business deals with you and thanking you for that. Archer, at the time, I think I hit the jackpot, but obviously as time has told, being a little bit too close to the sun ends up burning you. Tucker, these are not business guys. This is the vice president of the United States. He's not allowed to be working on business with foreign governments while he's vice president. I don't think. Not that I know of, but here he is. All right. So if you actually get into the letter, the most amazing part of the letter is that he says, sorry, I couldn't come and see you at the lunch. So Joe Biden, the vice president of the United States, is telling this mid-30s guy, so sorry, I couldn't see you at the lunch. I was busy with just this loser. It was the president of China, right? It was President Hu. He was welcoming President Hu, and he says, so sorry. I'm so glad you're with Hunter, though. Come by and we'll chat about it all next time. So, of course, this was seen as sort of normal at that time. Oh, I know him. It's regulatory strategy, right? Which is really just whose door do you knock on? Who do you ask for a favor? All these kinds of things. And because of that, it's kind of a smoking gun, right? This letter shows that he's prioritizing this business relationship. Now, someone can say it's for his son. He's happy his son is doing well. But he clearly says in the letter, I'm excited about what we're going to do. And So he's clearly got some skin in the game here. He's got some stake in this thing being successful, other than just his son has a job, right? So, of course, that's not what's going to happen. So the idea here, though, is that you can kind of feel this vibe shift when you look at this, right? When people start opening their eyes to what actually is going on in Washington, D.C., as far as these business models go, it's going to turn into a situation where, just like Bitcoiners, just like we here in this space in the Breakup have been figuring out that you should pretty much ignore all news, all mainstream media, because of it, it's got, it's spin, it's pushing you in the wrong direction, it's making you angry, making you sad. That's exactly what we're trying to get away from, why we meet here every morning and why we talk about this stuff. But a lot of people are still sort of convinced that the news is the news, right? That you actually get the news from the news. And only now is it becoming obvious to more and more people. So as I'm saying, us Bitcoin people knew for a long time it was a lie, right? But now that people are starting to see that the news business is exactly what Bitcoiners have been telling you it is, a big scam in order to keep this psychological state perpetuating forward, right? This system that we have, because it is so shocking for some people once they open their eyes and see the news is nothing like the news. If you thought for these years you were getting like, these are the things we talk about and here's the news, it's not that way. And because things have gotten so crazy with Hunter and Trump and all of this stuff, you're actually seeing the machinery at work now. Like, when we showed the weird preponderance, for example, of the Hunter Biden stuff coinciding with Trump indictments, right? It's very hard to unsee. And once you see how the system works, and I think that's one of the great things why we should always be thankful for COVID. It's sort of supercharged our ability to see the machinery, right? We often use the Wizard of Oz analogies, right? Wizard of Oz, what's behind the curtain? And of course, remember what was actually behind the curtain. It's not just that it was a human there, right? It's not just that it was a human there. It was a human there, but the lion, the straw man, and the tin man and Dorothy all found out that the deal they had made, because remember, when he was still the Wizard of Oz, they went and made a deal with him, and that was go kill the bankers, right? Well, if you read the analogy that the Wicked Witch of the East and West and all these were the bankers, if you go back to the populist era in which Wizard of Oz was written, the late 1800s, when it was all about bimetallism and silver on gold, and they were never ruby red slippers, they were silver slippers on a gold track, which was silver on gold. Everything about Wizard of Oz is related to the creation of the Federal Reserve and the changing of the monetary system. So if you go back to the frame that they had, the politician's job in that story is to do what a typical politician does. It's all quid pro quo, right? It's, okay, you go get the broom and the banker's fortune for me, and I'll give you what you guys need. It's a tit for tat trade, right? It's not just go to the wizard and he gives you magic. No. You do for me and I do for you. That's politics. That's the Washington system. It's been that way, it looks like, since Frank L. Baum wrote The Wizard of Oz 130 years ago, right? So the quid pro quo nature of this, and the way the system works, right? Once people start opening their eyes to it, once you see the machinery, you can't unsee it. And these indictments coinciding with the Hunter Biden things is one of those instances. But since COVID, the machine has been laid bare, let's say. And when you think of it, right? So one of the great analogies, and this is one Scott Adams used, when you see these video things of people that listen, like adults that had never heard an amazing song from the 60s or 70s or 80s or something like that, right? There's all kinds of these. It's like a genre on YouTube, right? And they're like, whoa, that was amazing, right? Whoa, what? I never knew that band was so good. The Beatles, right? Happiness is a warm gun, right? I never knew how great it was. That whole thing is what we're about to experience en masse with Americans looking at the news. So we're in for an actual real treat in the next few months. We're in for one of the most amazing and entertaining times that we'll ever experience as people living on this continent, living in this world, right? Because here's where this goes. Once you start peeling the news story back and you realize that was all fake, and then you realize the politicians and how the system worked, you're going to start to see the machinations of deep state, of national security interests, and you're going to start to be able to see even what has been done to Trump, right? Here's Cernovich's take on what happened to Trump. It's an assassination by other means. There's no turning back from this moment. The United States is officially occupied by a hostile, demonic regime. Shed all childish delusions and naivete. Comply when you must, resist when you can. The shadow of the dark age is upon us. And now that's one way of putting it, right? But the contrast to that is more and more people understand now that this is what's going on. It's not just two political parties and, oh, if we just win this time, it's going to get better and we'll change some policies. No. It's not that. It's not even close to that, right? It's underlining that things like the diversion agreement just came out today for Hunter Biden. Like, we have it public now, right? And it clearly states, like, imagine the Attorney General of the United States wrote this, right? Wrote this and put it in a document. The United States agrees not to criminally prosecute Biden outside of the terms of the agreement for any federal crimes encompassed by the attached statement of facts and statement of, blah, 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 blah. This agreement does not provide any protection against prosecution. Does not provide any protection against prosecution for any further conduct by Biden or any of his affiliated businesses. So it basically is a start over, right? From then on, he can do new illegal things, but that's the end. Everything he's done before is expunged, which is obviously not going to work and didn't fly. The judge saw it. So I think that there are people, even in the Democrat system, that are saying, no, we got to start cleaning this up, but it's not that simple, right? It is not that simple. And when you start to realize that this kind of influence peddling that he's been doing goes on forever, this idea now that people are waking up enough, showing others what's going on, enough of it is spreading, just like the Joy Reid thing yesterday. It said, oh, go tell your neighbors, it's time to have the conversation, right? This is how low they've gotten. They think that they can go send their low information, low IQ listeners of the Joy Reid show on MSNBC, and they can come and persuade people who are fully aware and cognizant and attuned to what's going on in the world that actually the fake news is true. That's their plan now. That's what they got left, right? Now, I had a friend yesterday, one of our great listeners here, great joiners of the Breakup, asked me, should I watch House of Cards, right? Is it real? And I said, no. I couldn't even get through an episode of it. Like, it's terrible if you really worked in politics and see how you worked. And I said, actually go watch Veep. Veep is 100% accurate. It is exactly what's going on. Now, there's people in charge of these other Veep type characters, right? But they are as stupid as they are in Veep. And once you accept that, right? Once you see that, once you know that these are the people we're up against, it starts to become very simple to imagine how we're going to win, right? Because we're not dealing, they didn't send us their best, right? It's not their best that are left over there. And so these folks that did things like the 51 known liars on the Hunter Biden laptop thing, right? Enough people are going to figure this out now. Enough people are going to open their eyes. And just like those videos of folks when they listen to that music for the first time, like, whoa, right? That's going to open their mind to many other things. It's not just that the government's a scam and that the media is a scam. It keeps going, right? And so their plan of getting like Joy Reid watchers to come and listen to us, that's all they got, right? That's what they're hoping for, that some low IQ, low awareness person is going to be able to hypnotize you. They can't, this ain't going to work, right? The main broadcast media hypnotizers have lost their power. They're not going to be able to get a crowdfunded, crowdsourced hypnotist ring going to help delude you again, right? Now, for all of us who end up encountering this, right, the only thing you can do now is mock and laugh. And that's the good news. We're at the mocking and the laughing stage of the game, right? You don't engage the neighbor who comes and tells you, oh, Trump he's a conspiracy. He's a seditious, he was trying to overthrow the United States, right? And ignore our elections, right? You can literally just laugh in their face now. And you have to, right? It has become a laughing matter, an actual laughing matter. So there's what Cernovich here is saying is potentially true, right? We are under this hostile foreign regime, but the answer is going to be laughter. Laughing at these guys is going to be one of the best things you can do. If any one of their low IQ, low information, low awareness Joy Reid voters or watchers comes and tells you, well, you got to change, it's time to have that conversation, you can literally just crack up and then say, well, okay, you got, what else you got, right? Where do we go after that, right? Well, Vivek has a plan, right? Vivek has a plan. He's going to torch most of the FBI and put them in different places, and that's pretty good to hear. So there's big news about those things that are coming quickly. But here's the other piece of big news, right? And this is, I think, what is most important about this. When I say that people are opening their minds, and once people do that sort of oh my God, the music I never knew existed is amazing, right? Once they start opening their eyes and you see more and more people have that, we're going to have an opportunity to talk about everything, right? Everything that has been going on for these years. And here's one, right? We talked earlier about the Fitch's downgrade of the United States debt rating, right? They're now a AA. Of course, our favorite. Remember how glad we were, just in terms of laughter and just in terms of comedy, that it's the Joy Reid plan. Get her low information people to convince you and try and hypnotize you that the January 6th thing was an insurrection, right? So there's that. But then the other one is the Janet Yellen plan. Remember, they sent Janet Yellen to China. Come on, Janet, right? And then they sent her around. Janet, go tell all the world that they have to have a global tax rate so that no one runs out of the United States. Like, that was one of her plans, right? That was one of the early Biden administration plans, was to send Janet Yellen around the world and destroy tax havens so that Americans wouldn't leave and go to lower tax environments. That was Janet Yellen who was in charge of like some geographical harmonization of tax law. Of course she failed. Of course, right? Like, this is not exactly leadership material here. So Janet Yellen, right? Buy Bitcoin lady, right? She's yesterday talking about the historic credit down rating, right? And some people said it was because of January 6th, right? Here's her. Fitch's decision is puzzling. This is Janet Yellen's quote. Fitch's decision is puzzling in light of the economic strength we see in the United States. I strongly disagree with Fitch's decision, and I believe it is entirely unwarranted, right? So she comes out and says, no, I disagree, right? Well, the good news is this kind of shit ain't gonna fly anymore. And people like her that are gonna tell you the economy is this and it's that, and America's doing great. Now, America is in many ways doing great, right? But like we said yesterday with GDP and some of these numbers, they're not really the accurate way to measure the country. Remember what Jerome Powell said, her successor at the Federal Reserve. He said the US dollar will remain the global reserve currency as long as the rule of law and American institutions stay in place. They're long gone, right? So what does that say about what Jerome Powell said? Well, you tell me, right? But we have a bit of an idea. Just yesterday, even KPMG, right? If anyone saw this, KPMG comes out yesterday and says, right, that Bitcoin is now ESG friendly. And they did an amazing study yesterday on Bitcoin being the demand response, recycled heat, stranded energy, methane reduction, renewable energy finance. They got into all the details, all the good stuff, right? All the good stuff. Let me get this one out. They've been there doing all the good stuff, right? So I got a lot of comments today. I'll get to those. So this report comes out, right, at the same time as the Financial Times reports yesterday that companies rated highly on ESG metrics pollute just as much as lowly rated companies, researchers found, right? That should have been in Moscow time today. I had just placed it improperly. So this idea then that once people start realizing what's going on with media, politics, right? It kind of doesn't end there. It kind of keeps going. And it's the same story. So once you see people starting to get addicted, because it becomes addictive, right? When you do this game of listening to music and then, oh, it's so good, right? I never heard it before, amazing. That game actually will continue. Like, you get addicted to that feeling and all that stuff. So once you start having people wake up, let's say, at the rate they're about to, and the rate they already are, I think it's happening very quickly. I think the UFOs, I think that whatever has happened on Twitter since Elon bought it, and the amount of people, that's why, daddy's coming home from war. You're getting a lot of people now that were like, no, now it's finished. Right. And that's where you get the Joe Rogans. And that's how you get, Joe Rogan in the 2020 election. You still didn't really know who he was voting for example. It was still kind of controversial at the time, or it was still perceived as, you wouldn't say you supported Trump out loud, let's say. Right. I think though that planet is gone. That planet is long gone. And it's going to be the reverse. Right. I think it's going to be embarrassing to support anyone who is related to this Biden thing. Now, the only Democrat who can break that mold is RFK, which I think he's going to, right? And so when you think of it as like daddy's coming home, right? Now, remember the charges against Trump are treason and death penalty if they're right, for mind reading him. Remember, his belief is that the election was stolen, right? So the whole thing about the Trump indictment yesterday relies on that. It relies on him knowingly, remember that, right? They have to prove that he knew the election was legitimate in 2020, and that even though he accepted it as legitimate, he accused it of being fake. Remember, that is what the whole case rests on. Only that, right? It is only that he knew and lied about what he thought happened in the 2020 election. Otherwise, freedom of speech protects him in all instances. In this case, it's such a low effort to defend himself in this case, no matter what they say about the January 6th inquiry in Congress and blah, blah, blah. It ain't going to work, right? It's not going to work. And most Americans sort of realize that, right? Most Americans are opening their eyes to this. And in the same way that as they open their eyes to it and see now that he's facing actual execution, right? Actual capital punishment. That means that Trump, I think, is going to, this is war. But at the same time, right, you can say, oh, Trump, right, has some sort of like moral right to revenge and they stole the election, right? His even understanding of the 2020 election is they stole the crown jewels. This is what someone who interviewed him about 2020 said. Why don't you just focus on it's something I've said too. I wish Trump would just focus on the next election, clean up the next election, stop talking about 2020. True, but his mind is that they stole the crown jewels and you got to get them back and you got to talk. You can't let them get away with it. He's completely correct about that, right? So I'm not arguing with that. But if that's his mandate to win the president for revenge, and if the idea is you deserve it because you suffered, well, I got another guy who has as much of a say in this, which is, of course, Robert F. Kennedy, right? They killed his dad. They killed his uncle. They killed the people around him and made him grow up as a fatherless teenager, right? And you saw the drug problems that came after and all of these things. So, because he became a heroin addict as a teenager, right? RFK was a heroin addict as a teenager. And one of RFK's best, we don't even really touch on it much. He did it one time and mentioned on the Bill Maher show that he would create these sanctuaries to get off drugs in the countryside, like farm type sanctuary things. Because of course in America, there is no place to go if you're addicted, right? Like you can leave and they can't do much. And there's not really that service, right? You might think there's a place where you can go. There isn't really, right? So the idea that he's going to make these towns for people to get over drugs comes from an honest place. Like he was an actual addict, right? So an important thing, I think, for what's going on in America, because it's one of America's biggest needs for healing and getting over this stuff. So so this idea that both people ask me all the time, do you think Kennedy's for real? Is it right? You had people say, oh, he'll sell them out when he gets a job offer or some shit. No. You get Trump and you get RFK. Both are coming home from war. This is coming home from war, right? Now, what happens when a man comes home from war, just like in Odysseus, just like in Ulysses, just like in the Odyssey? What happens, right? Did Ulysses just say, well, it sucks that my wife has been taken by this other guy and everyone is going to run this island now and I'm gone? No, right? When Ulysses came home, right, it was war again, because you're going to fix the things very easily. It's the same as the end of the Lord of the Rings, right? The real true end of the Lord of the Rings in the book, they return to the Shire, and of course, they are getting whispers that it was taken over by Sharky, I think was his name, which was really Saruman. And they ask Gandalf, so he leaves them at the Prancing Pony, right? And right where they met Aragorn, right? In the beginning of the story to keep going. So they go back to the Prancing Pony, hear rumors that the Shire has been taken over by big men and Sharky. And they say to Gandalf, the four hobbits, Gandalf, come on, we got to go, right? Let's go get them. And Gandalf says, don't you know what this was about? I can't come with you. You're on your own now. These are your own problems, right? So the end of Lord of the Rings was really one of these daddy comes home from war stories. The four hobbits had no trouble dealing with Saruman, and they whipped their asses in no time, right? It took an afternoon and the Shire was free. So the analogy here is that when people come home from war, and Trump and RFK, I would say, have been at war. RFK might have been at war since 64. I mean, really, right? Psychological war. He believed during those opioid addiction days that his father really was killed by stray, crazy gunmen. It took him years to figure out what happened and accept that it wasn't what the government was telling him, right? It was a lot more devious than that. So the point here, though, is that once Americans start on this path of getting addicted to opening their eyes to what's going on, and it's not going to stop. You're going to see more and more. It's happening every single day, right? The argument around Bitcoin and what we saw with KPMG and all of these things is going to hit, because eventually it's not the military industrial complex. It's not the industrial censorship complex. In the end, all of this can happen because the money was corrupted. And if the money is corrupted, that's how you pay for this runaway thing. That's how you keep a war machine running for years. There is no feedback loop. There is no accountability. There's no one measuring it. There's no one looking. There's no one who knows what's going on. In the end, you end up with things like Janet Yellen saying, I don't know what happened. I disagree, right? I just disagree with what they said. Well, that ain't going to be good enough, right? Americans are becoming poorer and poorer. They're seeing this stuff happen, the carnage, right? They've got homeless people throughout their cities, tent cities all over the place, right? Americans don't want to live like this, right? And they won't. So there's this momentum now, and even if you look at what's happening in the next few weeks, right, you're going to see Janet Yellen make a return to the news in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because you've got BRICS meeting, right? All these new members, all these people saying the problem is the US dollar, right? That's the problem, right? That's how people like Biden do this kind of stuff. They can leverage the US financial system for this hegemonic situation where actual organized crime families are running the world, right? Not a good situation. So that's why these companies are saying Saudi Arabia. They're not doing it because they want to live in some sketchy system that isn't administered by the Americans. No. They don't want to live in the sketchy system administered by the Americans, right? That's what they don't want. And of course, their shitcoin ain't going to run, right? It's not going to work. And they say it's going to be silver and gold and these countries, but now this one's not allowed. And then India said no. There's only one way out for this: the non-political money, right? The non-political money is coming. And it's coming to these people. It's coming with what Michael Saylor said yesterday, right? Michael Saylor bought a shit ton more Bitcoin yesterday. The same trick he did the last time. So he's not taking any more debt. He's diluting shareholders to add Bitcoin to the balance sheet. I don't know anything about it. MicroStrategy went up. Looks like some people are happy. Maybe some people aren't. But of course, on that show, he comes out and says, look, the whole world is waking up. Bitcoin is the most interesting asset in the world. It's the most interesting international asset in the world. And the reasons for that are pretty simple. So as people wake up and as you get people that are not going to hesitate, I don't think, for example, Michael Saylor is going to equivocate in politics again this year. They fucked him with the tax thing, right? I think Michael Saylor is going to be clear. And I think you're going to have more and more people who are going to be clear. I mean, all of these politicians were at Michael Saylor's house in Miami when we were there, and friendly, having a nice time, talking about stuff and all of that. So I think you're going to see more and more of it, and it's good news, guys. So look, the idea here is that you're going to get people who are going to take way more chances. You're seeing a situation like Ulysses, like the Odyssey, like the end of Lord of the Rings, where there's men coming home from war, and they're not here to fit into this shit system. They're ready to rip it all up. And here's the fun thing that because we talk a lot about, I wish RFK and Trump would form one ticket, right? Yeah. I say it's impossible for one party, but here's something that I think might happen. Right now, the very low chances, but this is where my mind is headed these days, right? Because I can see a lot of the conflict ending before the vote. Like, I don't know if I think the conflict is ending before our eyes, right? I think the U.S. election, that The future is becoming very easy to predict now. Even the Bitcoin stuff is becoming clear as ever. 2024 is the year of Bitcoin. It is the year of rebalanced global trade. It is the year we finally turn off the aircraft carriers and the military industrial complex that hasn't been shut off since World War II, but we shut it off in 2024. It's becoming clear. It can't persist. And the only way it persists, there was a vote yesterday. I don't know if you saw it. Roseanne Barr was on the Tim Pool show with Michael Malice. And Roseanne, I love Roseanne, right? She's a national treasure, another one of these people that has to be celebrated when World War III is over. Huge fan of Roseanne. And Roseanne said there's not going to be an election in 2024. That there's no choice. They can't win. They have to put the boot down. You get Cernovich saying things like that from time to time. Some people think that's true. Michael Malice said, absolutely not. They made a $1,000 bet saying there's going to be an election. Tim Pool said, I don't know. I could see how there wouldn't be. Now, I agree. There's only two options now. There's got to be no election or a wicked scammy election, right? Even scammier than 2020, or there's no election. Now, Michael Malice said they're going to do a scammy election, right? They don't need to. And that again, is the number one red flag you should always worry about that you see around you right now, right? That doesn't even look like the Democrats are trying to campaign at all, right? It looks like they're fine. They can get Joe out, put Gavin in, and pretty much believe they're going to win, right? That's what I'm seeing anyway. So that's sort of the major red flag out there. But Biden is not. He's not in the game, right? And I don't think Gavin can beat any one of these people, right? So, and I think RFK could destroy Gavin easily, right? And even with all this shit against him, even with it all against him. So here's what I'm thinking. The pressure gets relieved sooner than anyone is even thinking. We don't even get to the dark times of the election and what's going on and Gavin and they're going to cheat again. I think you end up getting Kennedy because he's the only one out there, right? Well, who are they going to replace him with in the Democrat thing? He's in second place. He's winning in all the polls. His favorability is higher than Trump. So what you get is, and it's always what I predicted, that RFK can do to the Democrats what Trump did to the Republicans. And I mentioned many times what people like me who aren't really Republican, but what we love about Trump is he destroyed the Republican Party. Someone needs to destroy the Democrat Party now, and that's how we can move forward. RFK can do it. But here, this would be an interesting thing. I don't think it's going to happen. It's like a 1%. But look at how amazing the world is going to be soon, and different than it was. But I could see this happening, right? Imagine if, because I don't see them fighting. I don't see RFK and Trump fighting. If it's those two people who get the nomination, there's no fight between them. What they could do is offer Americans this weird choice where there's one ballot where Trump, the Republican ballot, Trump is the president and RFK is the vice president, and the Democrat ballot where RFK is the president and Trump is the vice president. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's the kind of creative thing you could see, and we could see the tensions in the 2024 election come way down once we get through this stuff, right? That's the best case scenario, and it could happen. Now, the opposite could happen. It gets super dark because there's nothing, they're not going to accept this. There isn't going to be an election, like Roseanne said. If that's the case, I still don't think it holds, right? I think that this idea of most Americans now seeing the battlefield clearly and willing to do what it takes to stop this thing in its tracks and not let it go forward. So it looks like World War III is about to end, unless anything else crazy and psycho happens, which could happen. All right, let me see some of these quotes. A lot of quotes today. The best part of the mock is the OPSEC expert double, and yeah. Jevi mentioning here that this guy who who hallucinated this wouldn't accept Bitcoiners telling him, no, you made an honest mistake, buddy. Let it go, right? No, I remember that. Axios stretching for the silver lining there. Yeah. Axios. Remember what they said, right? Oh, Trump's bombshell, right? It didn't make the news. What's this about? Tokens recently solving the trilemma? No. Nah, Ragorn, I don't know about any of these other ones. My feeling is there's a lot of room for experimentation, but and there can be all kinds of things on top. But there is not really a way to solve the trilemma, as I understand. Like we talk about in the voting systems, right? Maybe. I don't. I mean, have fun and speculate. I'm I'm one of these people who doesn't think you should. Like, I'm a big believer in generational financial crime, right? Like you got to, right? All these boomers who still read the news and are sitting on that money. If you sell them shit coins and you turn it into Bitcoin, morally I don't care. Right? I'm not one of those guys. I'm not one of those people who's going to sit there and tell you, oh, we can't let scams go in the market because what if people get ripped off? They're getting ripped off. There's nothing you can do. Like, and anyway, this wealth transfer thing, you got to find your way to get it into Bitcoin. So, not a Hex guy, obviously, but all those people who bought Hex, well, sorry, like it was as obvious as you can imagine, right? If your time preference was so high that you wanted to get rich that quick that you were willing to give Richard Hart your money. No, I don't want to see young. Now, his was a particular scam because it did rely on really dumb people. But anyway, that's just my feeling, right? So if there is some legitimate shitcoin out there that isn't run by scammy people and is just not a bad idea, and I go for it. I'm not a big. I don't care about that stuff. Assalam. I don't think about the other coins. And as someone who's been in the game for a long time, I haven't been interested in anything other than Bitcoin, really, since all of this stuff started. And I used to sit next to Vitalik at the old co-work space where he came up with Ethereum. I mean, even then I was like, I don't know, like who's going to mine it, right? And it's stupid. I ended up mining it in year one. That was pretty fun. Sleep is raised. Oh yeah. Ben, I forgot about the Moscow time where sleep was racist. It's also racist, and now it can kill you. Robert Schmidt, good morning, Bitcoiners. P-Man Van, Canada is an embarrassment. It's the dumbest country in the world. They're really, it's hard to find a stupid one. The US media just makes a lame attempt to paraphrase the AP. Yeah, they definitely do. So is lifting. No, lifting is racist. Yeah. No, it's a waste of time. Get it straight, guys. Lifting is a waste of time. Can kind of kill you. Sleeping is both racist and can kill you, right? So there's different. Yeah, silly me. You're an ignorant Bitcoiner. Oops. Oh, I don't know where that went. Nap time for sleepy. Yeah. Robert, you're way behind because of I might quit over it. They allowed bone conduction ones, which are terrible, but your son has you on speakerphone during a Burisma board meeting. What are you going to do? Hang up on your son? Yeah. Have you guys seen the compilation yet? You got to see the compilation of people carrying water for Hunter. It's so good. It's another one of these with the clown music, It's really, really good. I'm glad to be on the dumb team. Yeah. What does Dan L say? They will drag it out just so Harris don't take over. Yeah. I wouldn't trust her with it. CK, what's up, my man? How you doing, man? Let's talk. Call me, CK. Call me soon. We got to chat. Got to catch up. I don't know if you ended up watching Barbie, but I think it would be a mistake. They are doing everything they can to pretend it's not a woke movie, but it's actually... No, I watched it and loved it, Slutty Bartfast. I loved it. And I will tell you why I loved it. It's not what you think it is. I don't think it's misandrist. I don't think it's at all. Like what I saw, here's what I saw. Michael Knowles broke it down, and I thought Michael Knowles' assessment was entirely accurate. So first of all, the feminist world is not real and is stupid, and Barbie doesn't even... spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. What does Barbie choose, right? Motherhood, more or less, right? She chooses the real world and the patriarchy and motherhood, right? Because she doesn't go to... You think she's going at the end of the movie to a job interview. That's what it would have been if it was a feminist thing. No. She's going to the gynecologist, right? And even the idea of when the mother or the creator of Barbie is telling her, you can be a mother, right? And that's bigger. When she's in the real world and they say, no women work here, we do much more, right? Much more. It's literally a movie about being a mother to me, I saw a movie about being a mother first above any of this career shit. And then the Ken character, well, of course she can't get with Ken. He's a simp. He's an idiot, right? Now, he had an actual character arc and becomes a real human being by stopping from being a simp. That's an important message for a lot of men at this time. If you're one of these guys out there who's like, I can make a woman happy, right? If I just do more, right? Guess what? It's not how the system is built, right? Now, I'm 100% down with male, female, working together, growing together, all those things, right? 100%. And you owe your spouse, enough in that relationship. But I think what they showed in that movie was subtly genius, not an embrace of feminism. The Barbie world, which doesn't work, is the feminist dream. She chooses the real world, which was the patriarchy in their show, right? She chooses the patriarchy. She chooses, I think, subtly motherhood, right? So very major character arc. I thought the movie was actual genius, right? That's just me. But if you want a more in-depth, go look at Michael Knowles. He did a whole breakdown. He disagreed with Ben Shapiro's take on it and basically came up with that was my impression of the movie. So there you go. Your show is so good. How can we find you on Nostr to send some zaps your way for this value? I'm going to set that up today, Patrick. I had it set up on another server. I used a different wallet, but it never got drawn up in the Damus app. So I got to redo it on Damus, and I'll get a wallet attached. I'm working on all that stuff these days. All right. Do you think the Dems are in on it to get rid of Biden? Yeah, they are. Yeah, maybe bring in a used car. Yes, that's exactly what's happening, P-Man. Yeah, there's no way they're living. So that's what I'm saying. Biden is off the field. Don't even consider him anymore. He's finished. It's over. He's not going to come back. There's no more Biden 2, none of that. None of it. The media news is for sheep indeed. Good morning. Happy Thursday. We love Thursday. Tuesday night, Berkeley released a paper saying the math and chemistry should... Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. Clout, I'm now absolutely paying attention. Looking more real. 50-50 still. I'm at 50-50. But it's not just... but it looks real. Yeah. No American labs. Yeah. Just giving an update as I follow the story. I love it. Yeah, I love it. I'll follow it more when I have some organized thoughts. I might have missed, but Daddy is everybody. Muslim Bitcoiner. Daddy isn't one person here. It could be Trump, could be RFK, right? I see them both having a moral claim to being the one who gets to drop people from space. Both of them, I think, can make... I mean, that is what I hope the 2024 presidential debate, like the only tension I want to see between RFK and Trump running for president is who gets to be dropped from space. That's it. That's their only disagreement. I think Trump might be a little more ambitious with the space dropping people list, right? He might have a longer list. I feel like RFK is going to have a shorter space drop list, but he's dropping people from fucking space. There's some people getting dropped. So Daddy it's a vibe, right? It's more like people aren't going to put up with it, and you can actually put your foot down now. There's enough firm information to absolutely put your foot down. And if you don't put your foot down, there's enough information to laugh, right? Like what does a dad do to stupid children when they have unreasonable demands? You laugh at them. You don't sit there and try and rationalize and argue with stupid children. You laugh, right? And that's our big weapon now. Anyone who comes to you and tries to convince you January 6th and Hunter Biden is just a story, just fucking laugh. These people are low information, low in awareness. They might as well be NPCs. If they turned off, it probably wouldn't, it would be the same, right? So you got to laugh at them. So daddy coming home is more just a vibe, right? That we're entering a world where real men are coming to fix problems, and they could be women, right? It's a vibe. It's a daddy vibe. But what does daddy do when he comes home and there's a party and everything's fucked up in his house? That's the it's the same as Ulysses when you come home from war, right? It's everyone on Ulysses' ship. It's everybody on the ship who came home, and all their wives are getting sold off to new people and all this stuff, right? So it's everybody on the ship, and it doesn't have to be men or women or anything like that, but it's a dad vibe. We're not going to sit here and equivocate about, oh, what did Janet Yellen say anymore, right? That's over. Right? They went too far. They're talking about killing Donald Trump. Right? They have actual charges. This isn't about arrest. They're going to kill him, right? So, nope, not happening. Not happening. And the good news is it opens people's eyes to all this corruption. And just like those video music genre of, oh, listen to the first time and react, that whole thing, that is going to spread into money. It'll go from media, politics into money. So this is incredibly bullish for Bitcoin. Because people's minds are going to be open. Oh, I didn't know that was true. Whoa, it's going to be that all year. We're in for the most amazing year in history. Like, here's the thing. I've had an amazing and successful life. Lots of cool things I've done. Even my 10 years of Bitcoin, every year has been exciting and interesting and full of travel and full of interesting stuff. And I continue to find myself in these amazing circumstances all the time, where I always take the time and say, look at this is amazing, right? And I had that before Bitcoin. I had that in law school. I had that in the time I lived in Asia, and I lived in Europe before, and just great experiences growing up in Quebec, working in theaters and hiking and restaurants. And, I've had a lot of amazing experiences. Just love my life, right? Absolutely love my life. 2024 is going to be the greatest year ever, ever. It's not even going to be close. It's the first time in my life where I predict after that I'll never reach the same highs of interest and excitement as I anticipate in 2024. So this is a major time. The world is absolutely changing, and we're going to end World War III in 2024. So that's the good news. Hunter didn't kill himself. Oh, I missed this one. Record a video of yourself watching Budgie TV performance compilation for the first time. Yeah, maybe I will, Robert. Broken Brain Americans React, Manufacturing Consent, The Political Economy of the Mass Media by Edward Herman and Noam Chomsky, originally published in 1988. Yeah, really neat. Finally caught another one live. Glad you made it, man. Punkle Mike, glad you're here. It would be a perfect timing for space drop. Start with the big man. Start off with a bang. Nah, the big man, he's not gonna make it there. He's done. I don't think he physically makes it until September. I think they kill him. I've been saying that here in the mornings for all week. So when it happens, I'm the first person in the world, I think the first person in the world to predict he will be assassinated. They'll call it natural deaths, but he's not making it. Let me just say Halloween. I don't think he makes it to Halloween. I don't think Joe Biden will not be alive by Halloween. That's how I see it. Now, it's not 100% chance, but I see it as definitely non-zero, and like not in the, it's like a 10% chance, right, that he's assassinated between now and Halloween. So I'm saying it like it's going to happen, but there you go. The laptop was the thing that flipped me. I thought it was fake. Once I saw it, I flipped. Wow, Glenn, that's an amazing story, man. Congratulations. It's not easy to do that, Glenn. Not everyone does it, right? What I'm saying is we're now at a point in time where more and more are doing it. But you got it early, man. Congratulations. Laughing at them is the simple, most impactful way to remove their authority. You have to laugh at them all the time. It's clowns, absolute clowns. Laughter or asking to explain it out loud, like you explained yesterday, works well. Yeah, absolutely, Cloud. The other one is just, oh yeah. The other one that I do, if you haven't heard it before, is just play dumb for a second. What? There was an insurrection in America? I didn't hear about it, right? And then make them explain it to you. They can't. They cannot. They cannot. If you argue with them, there was no insurrection, they'll win, because now you've already accepted the frame, right? Don't do that. Don't accept the frame. Play dumb, make them explain it to you, or just laugh, whatever you're in the mood for, right? The playing dumb is good because you're comfortable and they're not, and they didn't know they would be uncomfortable. They were so sure, and when they go to search for the logic, it's not there. They're convinced. So when they go to search for the logic and they go into the bag and they pull out nothing, they're surprised every time. They're like, this doesn't convince you? And you're like, sure. So that's how you do it. That's how you do it. Here's an open mind. 80. Yeah, so that was already to confiscate. It was already a scam, though, Dan. First of all, they're never going to hire these people, right? And again, the IRS is going to be shut down before they hire these people. Put it that way. I've predicted for a long time that the minute you open your eyes to the Federal Reserve System, you'll understand why the tax system is there, and because the Federal Reserve System must have the ability to collateralize the debt on top of everyone's birth certificate. That's literally how the system works, right? It is birth certificate collateralization, and that's what is going to be stopped. Right? Birth certificate collateralization. And you can't do that. So from then on, yeah, and you can't confiscate Bitcoin unless it's on an exchange. It's not going to work, right? Let them try. I would please, God of the simulation, please deliver unto us an IRS that tries to confiscate our Bitcoin. We must have it in time for the 2024 party. We need it. We need to laugh at these people. And let them bring their fucking guns. Let them bring them, right? I'm pretty sure Bitcoiners can arm up in time. So I'm not worried about the IRS at all. They're not going to make it. Yeah, the symmetry is striking. They're threatening Trump with death, and Sleepy is about to be offed. Yeah, Sleepy is about to be offed. Trump only cares about popularity, intention, and relevance. Yeah, so what? I mean, but you're mind reading him, though, Robert. You don't know what he cares about. I don't know what he cares about. How could I know, right? Wow, I never knew that. RFK would be the most sympathetic president ever for many people in America dealing with addiction, or those that have. I can't believe he admitted that publicly. Oh, no. He was arrested for it, Clout. He was arrested for heroin possession and use in the 70s because he was a heroin addict as a young 20-year-old fella. He says his first heroin experience was in the weeks following his father's death at 14 years old. No. He's to me, the heroin thing is it's the one thing I really don't. That's not that I don't like it about Trump. I respect it, right? Trump is a teetotaler, teetotal abstinence, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, never has. And he does have sympathy because his brother died of addiction. So he has sympathy for addicts. But Trump's technique is the cold turkey technique, right? And it's not. It's a boomer attitude. It's a boomer attitude, right? It's not the right amount of empathy for what these drug addicts require. And only RFK has spoken about the drug problem in America. Now, I'm all for Trump dealing with it through China, getting the fentanyl out. He's 100% on that, right? With the Mexico thing and the China thing. So all that stuff, Trump is great. But the connection to the addicts and understanding them and putting yourself in their spot, only RFK gets that. And RFK's plan it's amazing. So remember what I said yesterday about Trump's future city plan? It's Trump's best idea, right? Building new future cities. It's what I've predicted Bitcoin is going to be driven by in the next epoch, right? Or 2 epochs from now, let's say. Next epoch is just about us consolidating the metric of Bitcoin as a global economic tool to understand what's happening in the economy. We'll start financing energy. Energy projects are going to use Bitcoin to get going. But the step after that is actual citadel building and new cities from scratch with Bitcoin at the core and the center of it. And so this is the sleeper business no one sees that's going to turn the world around for I think the whole 80-year epoch that's coming of Bitcoin Standard is the citadel city, new city building business plan. And the future cities that Trump has alluded to, the 10 future cities, is a great idea. But it's a few years down the road, right? The more immediate and actual prototypes will be the drug cities that RFK is talking about, where you're going to bring the homeless, the tent people, the drug people. You're going to put them in a country environment. You're going to have them learn some farming skills. They can just be tent people and all that stuff too, right? There's no demand that they live in a certain way in this environment. You're just putting them away from society because you can't keep them in society anymore. Some of them are too broken, right? And the ones that are too broken need like a maximum amount of religious motivated helpers and nuns and pastors and all kinds of spiritual help, right? And they'll get it. And I think what Trump is doing is great for attention, just as Robert Schmidt was saying, and it's really showy. But the prototype is going to be RFK's more practical anti-drug or drug addiction treatment places. So it's okay. It's okay. Child tried to come in. He seems very genuine. Yeah. If you can't see, yeah, and I mean that's the thing I will say about Trump, right? He's the only president to lose money while being president. Everyone else made, right? Clinton, Obama. He's the only one to lose, so that gives him credibility in my mind. And it makes me, let's say, mind read him differently. Thanks for helping us. The cheat code of flipping to the end of the book, Nolan. Yeah, we're at the end of the book, guys. It's coming. Just the short story at the local bar would get a lot of sympathetic shoulders that remember. Yeah. No, the drug thing. He's not even really plumbing it yet, but he will. Yeah, the climate agenda is the worst, Phil. It's the worst. ESG was never a good idea. I lost faith in America in 2010 or 2011 when I was in the USA Army and said it's not torture. Oh no, yeah, that would do it. And they aren't. Yeah, Robert. It was a very dark time. That stuff, very dark, as Clout Casino mentions. Bitcoin. Yeah, here it is, man. Bitcoin or slavery. Choose and decide your fate. Yeah, and Phil C says Biden no plans to campaign at all. No. Ranked voting could fix a lot of problems with the uniparty. Yeah, I mean, the ranked voting thing to me, it's like thinking we can engineer our problems with politics, engineer away our problems. We can't, right? The only way we engineer our problems away is with re-engineering the money, and that's what we got to do. Lipstick on a pig fixing our political system. It's lipstick on a pig. It won't fix it, right? Florida is full of out-of-state license plates, usually just the snowbird months, but right now there are full-on hell summer, seeing a lot of cars from California Tech. I wonder why. Election or civil war? Yeah, that's the choice, Veterans Canada. Yeah, that's what I see. Yeah, that's what I see. I'm not letting Michael say I stacked more. WorldCoin. Yeah, no one's signing up for it though. It's like already not popular. It's not popular, Veterans. No one gives a shit about that. It's just not. No one cares. It's not going to go anywhere. Now that they had the announcement today, everyone can use it. Governments, everybody. Don't worry about it. Everyone signed up, and they got massive rug pulled. Yeah, this is what it is. The future of money. WorldCoin says it will allow companies, governments to use its ID system. Whoops! Surprise, surprise. No, we're not doing that one. What type of cold wallet do you use, if you don't mind my asking? We got some seed signer folks. I haven't stacked since private. Hopefully Strike solves it soon. Yeah. So many options. We got a lot of, is XRP any good? Nope. The problem with XRP, Jay, is the lockup is astronomical and it's still there. They pre-mined so much in the old days. And there's a legal case all around it because my former CEO and boss, Jesse Powell, the CEO of Kraken, was one of the founders of XRP and Ripple and left the company and sued the other owners when they did the pre-mine, saying you're setting a precedent that will haunt the industry forever. And so we know the information because of that. And, you know, the guy who started Stella was the other guy who started Ripple, Jed McCaleb. And Jed's grandmother has had some legal trouble because she keeps selling. When he left the company, they made him sign a like disbursement agreement, so he couldn't just sell XRP at his whim. And then it pumped big time. This was still when it was worth zero, but then it pumped so bad that his disbursement thing was annoying. So suddenly his grandmother started selling a bunch of XRP. And I remember you could just go up to him and say, "Hey, grandmother, got any of that good stuff?" And it was all at huge discounts, obviously. And so, yeah, no, the problem with XRP is not, I mean, the tech is fine. It was always a pretty interesting, honestly, it was always an interesting consensus mechanism. And it was always a worthy experiment. The problem always was they did this fucking pre-mine and it just fucked it all up. Pardon all the swearing, but I was always in the early days, 2014, 2015, I wasn't interested in the coin. Here was the thing about both Ethereum and Ripple and everything else that Bitcoiners from that vintage knew, right? Ones like myself who said, okay, Bitcoin is separate, it's cryptographic, it's not consumer technology, it's not faster is better, it's not 2.0. I was understanding all of that, and it was a store of value in our minds. It was the what do you call it? The reserve currency of the nascent crypto industry. Bitcoin was the reserve currency of the nascent crypto industry. And so if you looked at it logically, and this was an incredible lesson for me, when I looked at Ethereum, I said, okay, like if the value of Ethereum goes up, it will be useless because then gas goes up and you can't actually do it. So it's not a thing, just like Ripple was not supposed, it wasn't stock in the company. So it was just the coin, and the coin should have been more like a stable coin. It should never have gone up. And so I sold a shit ton of Ethereum because I saw it going up and I was like, oh, this ain't going to last. Right now, I got punished for being too clever about this stuff, right? I should have held it. Now I bought Bitcoin with it. I didn't sell it for any, you know, I just could have got a better ratio of Bitcoin to Ethereum than I ended up getting because of what happened. But this is, you know, years and years ago. But the point is that in the early days, I was interested in XRP for this reason. But once it started pumping and people were confused that it was a stock or the equity in the company, and then it became scammy. But it was always a nice piece of tech. I've hung out with David Schwartz, the founder, many times. Very smart guy. It was a worthy experiment and remains a worthy experiment. It's fine. It just don't get fucked around by XRP, the coin. Right? That's a scam. Right? A total scam. So I hope that helps. All right. I got to go a little quick. Damn it. Yeah, you're talking about. No. Honestly, Starty Bar Fest, it was excellent. And if you if you want to go have a look at the Michael Knowles review, it's heavy spoilers, but he's got it right. All right. Yeah. There you go. That's the problem with it. Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Drop people from space. January 6th, Epiphany of the Masses. I think so. Jay, my prediction is Trump comes around on Bitcoin by Christmas. I'm giving you and he's going to do the best. He's going to be, I'm a fan. Remember when he said, I'm not a fan of Bitcoin? I'm a fan. He's going to say, I'm a fan now. All right. I see that. I can see that happening. Would be great. All right, guys. Pardon me. I gotta skip all of these. Private cities. Got a couple more. I didn't know that I just I have never bought into the hype. Yeah. Jesse was a founder, and as I said, left and started Kraken the minute they did the issuance and sued them for it. Right, he sued them for it. So there's a lot of court documents about it all. I couldn't find the Tom Elliott supercut you were talking about. It's on Twitter. Yeah. Trump's wife tweeted Satoshi on his birthday. His wife is en route to Bitcoin. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it would be great to get Trump to put some ordinals out once he put those NFTs out, and the best ones, apparently. All right, that's all I got. All right. Oh, here's Billy Lau. Pardon me. Do you think if Condo associates adopt Bitcoin as reserve current? Yeah, Billy. I've been trying to think about this. I just don't understand enough about condos and all those things, homeowners associations. So I don't really know, but I hope so. I mean, I think there's going to have to be a lot of reassessment of how the real estate industry is done in general. Anyway, Billy, let's. I'm gonna send you a link and we can chat sometime, because I do want to see if I can. I've been thinking about it for a long time, so I might be able to help. But let me give it a shot. All right, team. Let me give a great day, everyone. And I went a little longer today, but that's okay. Where's my end stream? I will see you all tomorrow. I might be on the farm, might stay here today, not sure. But